Yeah, all right. What have we done on this Nut Set so far today? We have created a new holiday all throughout Central New York here on Portal Watch Day 44. It's Syracuse's day in the portal. And we got a like on our tweet about newest man who has Syracuse on his list. Former Florida State center Naheem McLeod, a.k.a. Big Duke. Shout out, Big Duke. Shout out to the transfer portal. And we talked some lax with the CEO of Inside Lacrosse. He is Terry Foy. And we explored the life and times of playoff Jimmy Butler, who had an all-timer last night, going for 56, 22 in the fourth. Just unbelievable in their win over the Bucks last night. Giannis had a triple-double. And it was like, yeah, you stink. You stink. This guy. Good. You stink. So that's what we did in the first hour. What shall we do in the second hour? We should probably do something. We should probably do something here in the second hour of the show today. As we are 2 days on the eve of the National Football League draft, we are likely 3 days in advance of when we first hear a Syracuse player's name called, and 4 days in advance, that's the last day of the draft, of when we hear all of the Syracuse names called that we expect or hope to hear in the draft this year. But what have we done? There's the players: Bergeron, Williams, Tucker, maybe Michael Jones. Hopefully Michael Jones, but the other three for sure we figure will get drafted. And with that, we've done a little research.
Once again, Brian goes down a rabbit hole.
I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
This time, I'll just go into the bushes over there, make a lot of noise, and flush out a rabbit.
Hello? It's me, Miss Rabbit! Help!
I'm late.
So, into the rabbit hole for this year's Syracuse NFL draftees, and a comparison, as best we can, to players that played their same position from Syracuse and how they did in the NFL draft. Well, Matthew Bergeron this week is going to be in rarefied air. Rarefied air in Syracuse offensive lineman history if he goes in the second round or the first round. If Matthew is picked in the top 2 rounds of this draft, he will become just the 4th Syracuse offensive lineman in the last 50 years, 50 years, to go in round 1 or round 2. 50 years. There have been 3 offensive linemen coming out of Syracuse to get drafted in the top 2 rounds. And they are as such. Justin Pugh, he is the only Syracuse offensive lineman in that time to go in the first round, picked in the first round in 2012 by the New York Giants, despite his tiny Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. Baby little T-Rex arms. I have no idea how Justin Pugh has hung in the NFL for a decade with those tiny little arms. Justin tore his ACL last year, unsigned as of yet. For next year, hopefully he lands somewhere at some time at some point. But Pugh, first-round pick, 10 years into the league now. It's worked out okay for Justin, I dare say, playing some tackle and then most of his career at guard. Prior to that, our friend Adam Terry, who was on the show just yesterday, was a second-round pick in 2005. He hung in the league for 7 years. Long time. Would have been longer. Injuries kind of curtailed the last couple of years of Adam's career. But Justin, 10 years. Adam, 7 years. And prior to that, the only other Syracuse offensive lineman to be drafted in the top 2 rounds in the last 50 years, John Flannery, taken in the second round of the 1991 draft, and he played in the NFL for 9 years. So what we're saying is history is saying that if Matthew Bergeron is anything like his Syracuse offensive lineman compadres who were drafted in the top 2 rounds, then he's going to have a very long and very successful NFL career. Stock up for Bergeron, looking at that. Only the 4th in the last 50 years if he goes in the top 2 rounds this coming Thursday or Friday. It's feeling like second round for Bergeron. He could slide into the 3rd. Numbers change a little bit with that, but if he's a top 2 round pick, expect a long and successful career for Bergeron. Garrett Williams is looking to become the 4th Syracuse defensive back now drafted in the last 15 years. The others were the duo drafted in the 3rd round 2 years ago, Andre Cisco by the Jags and Ife Melifonwu by the Lions. Cisco, a starter now for the Jags, looks like he is set up very well for the future. Ife's start to his career has been, for lack of a better word, Ife was hurt his rookie year. Last year was okay, in and out of the lineup. And the third player that goes into that was Shamarko Thomas. He was a 4th-round pick by the Steelers back in 2013. You may say, oh, where's a guy like Trill Williams? He was undrafted. So Garrett's going to join. We talk about all these DBs that have been around here recently. Only 3 defensive backs by Syracuse drafted at all in the last 15 years. So Garrett's going to join that crew. But like Cisco had a good career. Shamarko had a pretty solid career there. It wasn't long, but it was a solid career with the Steelers. And Melifonwu, we'll see where it goes. But I'd say Garrett, looking at Syracuse history of DBs in the draft, is set up pretty well. And then Sean Tucker, presuming he is drafted, and you never know with the recent medical situation, but presuming he is drafted, he's going to do something exceedingly rare for a Syracuse running back of late. The last Orange running back to be drafted at all. The last Syracuse running back to be drafted into the National Football League, DeLon Carter, 4th-round pick by the Colts in 2011. It has been 12 years since the Orange have had a running back drafted. Sean's going to get drafted. It's going to be lower than maybe we thought a month or 2 ago before he had a very weird run-up to the combine and medical issues and kind of did his own pro day thing yesterday with limited NFL teams in attendance due to the draft being this week. But that is it. A little rabbit hole on the recent history of the NFL draft and how it pertains to the Orange players that expect to be drafted. Hopeful for Michael Jones. I'm going to guess he's going to end up being an undrafted guy. He'll get signed. He'll be in a camp, and he'll have every chance to make a roster because he's going to show up with guns a-blazing, one would imagine. But Bergeron is set up for a long career, if history tells us anything. Garrett Williams is set up to go to a good spot. And Sean Tucker, we don't know what he's set up for. There is no precedent for a Syracuse running back to be in this spot anytime. Anytime recently. No precedent for a Syracuse running back to be in this spot anytime recently. And the only Orange running backs really recently, DeLon Carter never really did a ton in the league, that actually did anything at all. You look at Curtis Brinkley and James Mungro. Both of them were undrafted. So it's been a really long time since a drafted Syracuse running back has done anything. We'll be keeping our eyes on that. Looking forward to it later this week. Likely hear Bergeron's name off the board first coming up this Friday, hopefully in the 2nd round. With that, we'll take a break. We'll hop back to the portal on Portal Watch Day 44, a Syracuse holiday. Kevin Sweeney, Sports Illustrated college basketball writer, will join us when we come back right here on QSportsTalk.com at ESPN.